late, man. Yep. Can you start the music? Good evening and welcome to The Turning Point. I'm Reverend Wendell Anthony, your host, and we're here on behalf of the Freedom Institute for Economic, Social Justice, and People Empowerment. As you know, we talk about issues and events and people and personalities that really have to do with the quality of our lives. This is the voting season, which is why I'm wearing this Take Your Souls to the Polls sweatshirt. You may have heard me on radio and talking about voting on TV and throughout the media because there's no more important issue before all of us than the exercising of our franchise, and that is, of course, our right to vote. People have fought, died, lost blood, spent time in jails, sacrificed so much for you and me to have that right to vote. And so we must exercise that right to vote. We have 6 days before we can turn the corner and turn us to a new point in the history of our nation. We really are fighting for the very essence of our democracy, for the very essence of our rights as people in civil and human rights. We're fighting for educational rights. We're fighting for workers' rights. We're fighting for all the rights and institutions that we believe are pertinent to our lives. For the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about education. Even tonight, we had candidates who are running for the Board of Education for the Detroit Public Schools Community District who were here a week or so ago. And tonight, we're going to talk about university life. Higher education, is it really higher? And what does it mean in terms of it's helping to transform the lives of our students, and particularly as it relates to minorities and people of color. We're pleased to have women of color who have a sensitivity, we hope and we believe, towards the fact that we do and we must have access to education. And certainly universities in our area like Wayne State University, which is where I went and graduated from, Michigan State University, University of Michigan, Wayne County Community College District, one of the most prominent and important community colleges in our region. All of those are institutions that have to do with the quality of education in our lifestyle. So tonight we're going to talk about that in terms of what that means, because these ladies are on the ballot. They're seeking your vote in terms of putting them on the Board of Governors, and in one case the Board of Trustees for higher education in these university communities. And so stay with us for the next several minutes. We're going to be talking to Shirley Stancato, who's with us by video and by Zoom. And you know we're Zooming a whole lot these days because of the pandemic that we're in. So we're just glad that we have this technology that can keep us moving in spite of our situation. And we're going to be talking to Eva DeWalsh, who's also a candidate for the Board of Governors for Wayne State University, and of course, Dr. Rima Vassar, who was also a candidate for the Michigan State University Board of Trustees. So let's get right to it, and let's see what these ladies have to say about higher education, if in fact it is indeed higher. Welcome. And you can take your mask off if you want to. Dr. Vassar and Eva DeWalsh. I've known both of you for a while, and I understand that you're interested in running for university trustees and board of governors. Why, Eva? Why do you want to pursue this? What all the hell is at Wayne State University? And I mean that advisedly. And it's my school. I went there, and we didn't have all that back in the day. But y'all, not you. There's so much stuff going on. Why do you want to get in that?
So, Reverend, thank you for allowing me to speak and to let you know why and who I am.
Yeah.
Why is because I graduated from Wayne State University. I received both my degrees, my bachelor's and my master's. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's because I work full-time.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't feel so bad then. It took me about 10 years also because I was working.
But I never gave up.
Yeah.
I went at night, I went on the weekends, and I finally got it. And I think Wayne State University provided me with such a fabulous education. I mean, it has led to what I am today. I'm president and CEO of a nonprofit organization, Sur Metro Detroit, which is a workforce development agency, and they have been providing workforce services in Detroit for 50 years almost.
Yeah.
Next year will be 50 years, and I've been with the organization for 35 years. So I have experience and background in adult and continuing education. That's what my master's is in, adult education. And so the fact that it took me 10 years, I know is a non-traditional type of learning experience, and I know that we have a lot of students at Wayne State who are non-traditional.
Yes.
So I'm interested in making sure that the university is providing services and programs and helping students like me get a higher education and graduate. And you mentioned the problems.
Yes.
That's the reason why I'm running.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the future of Wayne State University. I'm concerned about its reputation. I have been going to the board meetings, and there's a lot of turmoil on the board.
Why is that?
The way the boards are set up, eight board of governors, and I know Shirley will be able to respond because she's on the board right now, but 8 members, and so it's divided right now. You have 4 and 4. They're not supporting a lot of what's going on,
When you say
or they're
4 and 4,
disagreeing.
what do you mean?
There are 4 board members that kind of don't agree with the other 4, so there's a lot of division. I'm concerned because a lot of things are not getting done. I mean, the university has been doing well in terms of graduation and enrollment. I want to see that continue, and I want to support those activities that are successful.
Okay.
We need to get rid of this stalemate, the division, and that's what I hope to do as a board of governors.
Okay, you know I'm going to talk to you about enrollment, African-American enrollment, because we hear so many things about whether or not the university is moving progressively to enroll African-American students and students of color, the graduation rate and all of that. So we get mixed reviews on that, so I'm going to come back to that. But Dr. Rima, you at MSU, big university and all of that, what makes you want to run and get into all of that?
So first, it's just nice to be back at home.
Good to have you.
We haven't been back since March, so it's just nice to be back. Thank you for having me, and thank you for continuing to raise the voices of those who really need to be heard in this election. I mean, I think the education boards are supremely important. I've been an educator all my life, and so when I think about what happens in schools and what doesn't happen in schools, I know that there's missed opportunities every day for the next Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the next Marcus Garvey, the next Malcolm X, right? We're missing opportunities to really enhance who we are as a society. And I really believe that if we change schools, we change the world. And so I'm running for the first political position ever in my whole entire life.
Yeah, this is, and you're running for Michigan State University Board of Trustees. That's an important position.
It is. My daughter goes to Michigan State.
Did you go to MSU?
No, I went to Western, and then I went to UCLA.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I have a PhD
I see.
from UCLA.
Okay.
But my
So they
husband,
let you run for the board? You know you went to UCLA?
they'll let me do it. So
I
my
see.
husband is a 2-time alum,
Okay.
Lucius. I'm not sure if you know Lucius Vassar.
I heard of it.
Yeah, well, so he and my daughter bleed green and white. They both love MSU. Ironically and sadly, the things that Lucius dealt with in the 80s, when they had to take over the student union, to protest racism, my daughter is still experiencing. They were hanging nooses, black figurines by nooses. They spray painted racial epithets in her dorm. She's had racial incidents that, to me, in 2020, and she shouldn't be having these same concerns from 2 decades ago. Top that with the sexism and sexual violence that women have been experiencing. So this intersectionality between racism and sexism have doubly impacted my daughter, and sometimes she doesn't feel safe. Which, sometimes I like, yeah, stay in the dorm, do your homework, but also she's a member of that community, and she should feel like she could go anywhere.
Absolutely.
And not feel accosted.
And now you're running for Board of Trustees. Obviously, that means that that's an area of concern that you would have personally as well as politically and publicly and as a member of that board.
And I happen to be a black woman too, all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I'm a critical race theorist as well. I study this intersection of race and class and gender and ageism and Islamophobia and homophobia and all these other icks and isms. And these issues about diversity, equity, inclusion, safety, and justice are near and dear to my heart. I study them. I teach them. The BSU advisor at EMU, where I'm full faculty, right? And so these are not issues that are just, my daughter's experiencing now, so I'm passionate. This is my life work.
And obviously, it's a concern because MSU has had its issues with male kind of abuse with female athletes and
Larry
others,
Nassar
just like U of M has had it, and so it's not uncommon. And I want to go to Shirley Stancato, if we can get her up on the Zoom to get her response. Shirley, welcome to Turning Point. Why are you running? Why are you running for the board? Shirley, you come from New Detroit. You've been out there. You know about all this stuff, and you know about the problems. I know you were appointed originally by Governor Whitmer to fill a particular position. I mean, what have you found, and do you think you are really able to make a difference down there?
Well, let me just say, first of all, Reverend Anthony, thank you for having me via Zoom. I appreciate that. And you're right, last December, I was appointed by Governor Whitmer to fill the seat that Kim Trent was vacating because Kim was going to work on the governor's staff. And so I've been on the board since last December. And you're right, when I accepted the position, I accepted it just to complete the year that Kim had. But once I got on the board and I saw, first of all, firsthand the work that Wayne State was doing. And I have to say, I did my undergraduate and graduate from Wayne State University. And so I'm a warrior. When I graduated, we weren't warriors, but we're warriors now. And so the work that I've done at New Detroit, as you know, Wendell, you were there with me almost 20 years that I was there. You were part of that work. My work was really, as I looked at it, was really balancing the perspectives of people who were left and right and up and down, and people who represented poor people, people who represented corporations and billionaires. And it was balancing those perspectives. And as I say, working both sides of the aisle. That's one of the things that needs to happen and be improved in Wayne State in terms of how we deal with each other, how we communicate with each other. The other thing is, there are a couple things. I'm running because I want to continue to improve the graduation rate at Wayne State, the overall graduation rate, but also specifically the graduation rate for people of color, for Black and brown people. I believe it's important to try to work on keeping tuition affordable, and so I was fortunate enough to be able to vote to not increase tuition this year. I was able to vote that as since I've been on the board in last December. And then finally, I also want to work to continue to support students, to have available to students, particularly students like me, I'm a first generation college student, supports within the university, resources so that they can be successful. So not just bringing students into the university, but making sure they graduate within a reasonable time. So I think that the 20 plus years the almost 20 years that I had on New Detroit's board, and prior to that, as you know, I was a banker in this city, that I believe that I can make a difference, and I'm really encouraged and inspired to make a difference by all the wonderful things that are going on at Wayne State University, and also dealing with some of the challenges.
I appreciate that. And, being a part of the Board of Governors, people might want to know, is that a paid position? What do you get as a result of being a part of that? And I know that's not why you all run, I would assume. But is there a paid position that comes with that? And Shirley and Eva, particularly, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Rima, are you able to diminish the kind of drama that's been going on there at the university? Eva?
In terms of the board?
Yes.
Or, yes, well.
Is it a paid
it is,
position?
It is not a paid position. It's a volunteer position, actually elected position. So no, it's not a paid position. The way I think we all have to work on the board is we have to collaborate. First of all, we have to put the students and the university first. We cannot have our own agendas, personal agendas. I think we all have to work together. I hope to be able to collaborate with the other board members, get to know them, and, every decision that comes before that board, I want to research it. I want to get everybody's side, everybody's opinion, but the students have to be first, and the faculty and the staff have to be at the forefront, every decision that we make.
Shirley, one of the things that I know and you know is Wayne State University. Wayne State University used to be one of the top universities in the country, urban universities. And I know back in the day when I was there, it was renowned for its urban programs, the Center for Urban Studies. Dr. Richard Simmons used to hang out in that center, and it was renowned for all the things that it was about. And now we have Dr. M. Roy Wilson. I know Dr. Wilson, there's been a lot of debate and discussion around that, and I found him to be a very amenable and sensitive gentleman. I know that, presidents of universities, their lives as university leaders are not that long in terms of their tenure. But what's your take on that and how you see that under his leadership?
Well, let me just say that Wayne State is
and has black student
university
graduation improved?
Pardon me?
Has black student graduation improved?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, so let me. That's going to be a long answer. I'm going to try to answer the question in pieces. First of all, Wayne State University continues to be the premier urban university in the state of Michigan and is renowned throughout the country for that. So I can tell you that. Excited about the new work that's being done by the Social Justice Committee, which, as we just started under Dr. Wilson's leadership, I'm a board member that's a member of that committee. To talk about, I mentioned that one of the things I wanted to focus on was the improving graduation rates, and specifically African American and Latino graduation rates, and first generation folks like myself. So I'm African American and a first generation. In 2011, the 6 year and universities measure graduation rates of 6 years. That's the baseline. The 6 year graduation rate for African American students at Wayne State University, everybody sitting down, was 8%. 8%. 2011. In 2019, it is now at 24%. Dr. Wilson came to the university in 2013. Now, 24% is still low, but it has tripled in that period of time. Same thing for Latinos. The graduation rate in 2011 was 17%. And at the end of 2019, it is now 39%.
Can you hold that point?
Double.
Hold that
and
point.
So,
can you hold that point for a second?
Sure.
I want to ask Dr. Ringwood, what is the graduation rate for black students, do you know, at MSU?
Abysmal. So
why are we not graduating?
So part of it is, okay, so the rate for even going in, the application and admission rates have declined over the last 7 years.
Is it because of money, or is it because of the academic standard? Is it university friendly, or are people just seeking alternatives and not going to university?
I think it's the first two. One, affordability is a problem. So not only are low-income students having an issue with affording tuition, but even middle-class families have a hard time paying for college. And even after you graduate, 10 years after graduation, 94% of all white borrowers have paid off their loans. 96% of all black borrowers have not. Right? That's a big deal. And if you think about then credit, viability for home ownership, even sometimes getting a job, if these loans have sat on your credit score for 10, 20 years, you're at a disadvantage. So we're taking out more loans, and we're still staying longer, 6, 7 years to graduate. You all both talked about the challenges of being non-traditional students and staying longer, but the average freshman who goes in still is not going to graduate for 6.5 years. Where your money runs out after that 4.5. And so there's an issue about affordability, which I think, again, the erosion of public education funding has been for the last 12 years despicable. We should be getting some money from the state and from the federal government to kind of supplement that. But then once they get there, issues around race and racism still influence what happens in their classrooms. My daughter was taking a history class. She calls me, "Mom, what do you think I should say to this professor?" Tell him he's wrong. She's in a women's history class. He says women didn't enter the workforce until the 1920s. Which women? Yeah, no, right? And so he said, "Oh, we'll get to you later. We get to you later." People can't withstand microaggression and micro assaults and dehumanizing conditions all the time and thrive. So there's got to be some real changes. And our president has gone after DEI training.
What is DEI?
DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion training. So any training that we would give to employees.
But you know, your president has signed an executive order indicating that they're not going to send any federal funds to institutions that are doing.
You can't even do the grant money.
And all
you can't even do the grant. So you can't do the training. If you want to study student life, black student life, you're not going to get funded for it. Right? So there's an assault on our personhood on those campuses.
So let's make the connection here. Here's a universities that may want to do diversity training and inclusion. But the President of the United States signs an executive order to say anybody that's doing diversity training and talking about institutional racism and this impact and on the community and the country, we're going to defund you.
Yes.
Now y'all see why it's so important to go and vote. Because whoever is the president has the ability to send that kind of negative and dangerous signal to the whole country. That means that corporations and businesses and institutions
and faculty
now have to obey or abide by that. Otherwise, they may not get funding for the programs of the universities. That's why we got to take our souls to the polls. And let me just ask you this: in terms of the university, is a college education necessary? I mean, do we still need to go to Wayne State University and MSU and UCLA and U of M? I mean, come on. I mean, do you know what it costs to build this church that we're in? Do you know that the tradesmen and women who built this church and who put the floor in, they were making $25 an hour. Why I need to go to college?
Can I answer that? Because I'm in workforce development. Yeah. And I can just tell you, no, not everyone needs to go to college. If they have another interest and it's in the skilled trades area, the positions that are available today, especially in Detroit, where we're doing a lot of building right now, and we have a shortage of skilled trade workers.
Right.
The field is just wide. There's a lot of opportunity there, and the salaries are very, very excellent. Like you said, $25, $30 an hour. We can't fill those jobs right now. So yes, there are opportunities outside of university and college. But a lot of people do not want to be in the skilled trades. So the universities and colleges are going to be that avenue for them.
Are y'all just elitist institutions,
No.
Dr. Rima? I
No.
mean, come on now.
No.
MSU, all of y'all talk about is being an MSU alumni and all of that.
We're a land grant institution, which means that we're devoted to making sure that every Michigander can come and change their minds. Education is an elixir for all that is ailing all of our country. If we change how we teach, what we teach. When I knew, okay, 8th grade, I read Malcolm X outside of school. Praise him, because if not, I would have been completely lost. Once I got to college, though, I was able to understand my condition, understand where I was, locate myself, and know that I had a common experience with other marginalized groups, that it wasn't me. I didn't have to internalize any of that there was a social condition that was really impacting my life. Everyone needs that. Mm-hmm. They need that awakening. They need that awareness. Education is liberation. So yes, you're never going to get me to say, even if you want, because you can get paid. You can get paid fixing sinks, right? Plumbers get paid.
They do.
Can you still
and
go?
Everybody needs one.
But can you still go to college though, just so you can free your mind?
So it's just a mind thing. I just want to go and just be.
No, it's a life thing.
I see. Okay.
I would say that.
I mean, I went to college, so I mean.
You got several degrees.
I would agree
I'm
with
just saying.
Dr. Rima that
Right.
going to college will not only free your mind, Dr. Rima, as you know, it could put you into a leadership
Y'all sound
position
like Gil Scott
within the
Heron.
trades.
So-
Within the trades,
I
you
see.
could become a leader.
Okay. Shirley.
Reverend Anthony, let me just, can I go back? I want to
come
go
on.
back to answer. First of all,
Come on.
the question about is college education necessary? Yeah, I believe that it's not either or in terms of skilled trades. It's both and or education. When you have a college education, I believe you live a better life. We can have a conversation about that. But I want to go back also to the college graduation rate, and Dr. Rima did mention it. So getting into college is one thing, but once you get there, what happens? I talk about the fact that as a first generation college student, when I ran up against the administration or how things are done, I didn't have anybody to call at home to figure out what do I do next? Mm-hmm. How do I navigate the system? And so it's important to have those kinds of things inside the university, and I know that Wayne State has that. The issue about you get to a point you don't have enough money to finish. What do? Oftentimes, African American students and other students drop out. Wayne State has a program. It's called a Warrior VIP program. It's a Warrior Way Back program. That there's a program that helps to forgive some of the debt that you have. So you have to have things inside the university to help students graduate. The other thing is that this educational system is a continuum. It's not just 4 years. It happens, if you learn how to read real well when you're in elementary school, when you get to college, you can do better. So I think we have to look at the educational system as a holistic system, and there are folks on the ground doing work around education equity for K through 12, and there are others of us, the three of us who you're talking to tonight, running for university boards. We're looking at taking that to the university level, but also improving what goes on in universities so students can do better, particularly Black and brown kids. And again.
Well, let me ask you this, Shirley, and to the rest of your colleagues. I mean, you all are running for the board, trustees, governors. How can you make a difference? I mean, you Latino woman, you Black woman, women, I mean, MSU, big board, donors who probably got more to say about what happens behind the scene than you do, donors which probably got a little more to say. How are you going to make a difference in terms of saying this is how the university should go and somebody listens? Dr. Ring.
So at UCLA, I had an opportunity to study policy, and what I do know is institutions respect paper. Whatever is written, now they will change the paper if it doesn't suit them, but initially, whatever's written, that policy is power. Mm-hmm. So when I go into the policymaking board room, I'm taking with me all the voices that generally have been unheard, right? I'm thinking about the people who have been marginalized and oppressed. I'm bringing in a different lens into the boardroom. I know people aren't necessarily lifting the trans youth who are being assaulted on that campus and have no place to heal, particularly Black trans, right? Or the Black survivors who also don't have a space to heal on that campus.
Is that going to be your priority going in as a board member?
It's one priority. I believe everyone who comes on that campus should feel safe and that they belong. And if you are accosted, you should have a place to heal. Now, my opponent will talk about counting how many violations there are and prosecuting. That's not what education is about. Education is about preventing. what does consent look like today? Because it looks different than when I went to college and when you went to college. I mean, it looks completely different. What does it look like to stay safe? What does dating look like right now? What are the violations between staff and student and faculty and staff and leadership and students? All these things, education can keep us from even having a victim. So I'm going to be going in trying to think of preventative measures for that. Students first. I'm centering students, the BSA at EMU, at Western, I'm sorry, I went to all my institutions. The Michigan State have endorsed me because I really want to listen to them. I went to ask for their endorsement. The first trustee ever to do that.
So a lot of universities base their reputation and base their money on research. And if you're not a research institution, you ain't getting the paper. So are we sacrificing academics for research to the degree that we doing research and then people want to come to us? And then how do we keep tuition down so that students can't afford to go to the school?
So, you know, I can't speak to the research at Wayne State. I know that Shirley will be able to because she knows the finances and all of that. But here's what I would, you asked what would be your priority as a Board of Governor. My priority would be to make sure not only are non-traditional students successful at the university, but also are we reaching and helping students who are coming out of Detroit public schools who may not be at the academic level that they need to be because they can't pass the entrance exam, or maybe they're just barely passing it, and maybe that's why we have a low graduation rate because they're not being, their retention is not good. And what are we,
I'm glad you raised that.
how are we financing programs and services to help improve the retention?
I'm glad you raised that because, Shirley, I'm coming to you and a couple of questions. But when I was going to Wayne State University, we had Project 50. We had Project 350 that related specifically to the Detroit public schools. We had Upward Bound. We had all those programs where students could come into the university during the summer, getting ready for university. Because coming to a major university, it's a whole different cultural experience.
It's scary.
It's like, wow.
Right.
I mean, I went to Central High School. And then to go down to Wayne State University with all these white folk, with all these white students, all these white professors, in many classes, I was the only black student in the class, which I love because they always ask me the question. I had the time to, I gave them my thing, so I didn't mind being asked the question. I mean, they asked me one time, well, what did black people think about racism? I said, well, let's go. You want me to answer that question? And then when they asked me the question, he said, well, are you trying to take over the class? And I said, well, no, but I can if you want me to. So I'm just saying you shouldn't ask if you didn't want to answer. But I'm just saying, I mean, Shirley, we had those programs. We don't have them now. Right. They prepared us.
Yes, we do.
Oh, we
yes,
do?
We do?
Well, then tell us what we
yes,
do have then. Maybe I need to know
kids,
it.
I could number kids coming for summer programs into Wayne State University.
And are they getting jobs? Are they getting the tutoring? Are they getting the mentoring? Are they getting the bridging into the university like we had when we were back there?
Exactly. They're getting the mentoring. They're getting the support. They come earlier. They're younger when they come, and they can come every summer.
I was young back then, Shirley. When I came in, I was young then. But they're young now. I was young when I came in. What you talking about?
Right. I mean, they're like, some of them come in from middle school. They have summer programs from middle. Okay. That's what I mean. Not just high school students, but middle school students. And one of the things that also I think about, we need to lift up. I talked about all the good stuff that's going on at Wayne State University. A lot of folks don't know about it. That's true. In terms of talking about the entrance exam, the SAT and the ACT this year, because of the pandemic, those tests weren't made available. Why they couldn't do them? And so Wayne State and a lot of other universities waived that ACT, SAT score. They had looked at other things and brought students in. I found out that other universities around the country have been doing that already. And so I'm not, I can't look into the future, but just because of that, students are going to be successful because of the programs that are in place at Wayne State and other universities. We're going to work to make sure that they can be successful. I just envision down the road that at some point, Reverend Anthony, I don't think they're going to be using entrance exams, ACTs and SATs to get in because they waive for the fall 20, and we're already waiving them for 2021 because those ACTs and SAT tests are not being made available. So we're looking at other pieces of the puzzle, which all of us have, to bring students to the university. But again, once they get there, we've got to make sure that we have the resources in place. And I'm not just talking about money, but the programs in place that help students move forward. I talked about the Warrior program, the Warrior Way Back. There are other kinds of programs, support from faculty support, when faculty are supporting students and students are supported. All those kinds of things need to happen for students to be able to graduate it, so they won't look around and say, I can't do this. I don't have anybody to help me. Let me leave. And that's the reason that students.
I'm glad you raised that, because that's important to know. But let me also ask this question, because I know that textbooks are high, and people drop textbooks like they drop water. I mean, a lot of times these professors are writing books just to get paid. And you got to read their book. You can't read nobody. I remember that. You got to read their book because they run the class. And so you can't get my man's book because even though it's on the same subject, you got to have his or her book. And books cost money. And we're in the age of technology, and we're online, and we're talking about virtual libraries and videos. I mean, does that make a difference? Are we still doing the same thing, Dr. Raymond, with regards to books and the cost associated? Has the online situation made a difference? And particularly now with the pandemic, and a lot of cases, we're not even back in classrooms yet. So where we are at with all of that?
So I want to just make sure I lift that MSU does have a program in Detroit called Detroit Made that has a similar structure. Come early, right? Acclimate yourself onto campus. And they also have Spartan Advantage, where you make less than $24,000, which is, well, your child goes to school for free. So they're making some attempts to make sure that there's some equity. In terms of you talked about research, and I just really want to go back to that, being full-time faculty, that when I said that the DEI piece is going to impact them, most people of color study other people of color. So our data around minoritized populations, Black, Brown, Asian, our Native populations, come from research that is done by faculty of color. If you're cutting that, the grants for that, then you're cutting off the lifeline for that faculty. So we already have too little in terms of diversity, faculty, staff, and administrators. Black administrators, Black faculty on campus, which also lends to feeling like you're safe and you're belonging and what you get to learn. Now, writing the book and assigning it, I'm trying to get to that hustle personally.
Right, and it has to do with, and tenure gets thrown in there.
All of that.
If you got to write a book or produce something within a certain amount of time, otherwise you're going to get expelled. You can't work here no more if you don't produce and all of that.
The only reason is to add to the body of knowledge to write a book, because your students aren't buying your books anymore. Almost all books are online for free.
Okay, and I'm glad you, because they weren't back in the day.
Right, but everything has changed.
Yeah.
Everything has changed. So since COVID-19, all universities are mostly online. Right. I was already teaching online.
Has the COVID-19 situation increased student participation online or in college? How has it affected where we are with the university life?
So for most universities, they already had a hybrid. Right? Most universities, you could do some online and some virtual. Moving all online has really impacted people. A woman, you can go to my website and it's like office hours. You can just literally schedule yourself a time to meet with me for 15 minutes. And I don't know who you are. I just show up where you tell me to show up, online or a call. This woman called. She set up an appointment with me. I called her. She said, my daughter's been crying. She goes to Michigan State. She's been crying since Wednesday because these classes, she's disconnected. She's a freshman. She went to Cass Tech where my daughter went to school. And she said, she's not doing well. I need you to talk to her. And your name and your face came in a mailer. And I said, praise God, this is the answer. And I told her, you're going to talk to you. So I talked to her about how to connect with her faculty who's distant. Really, really distant, right? Sometimes faculty are hard to reach anyway. Certainly, virtually is a problem for a lot of students. They're not getting the college socialization experience that you would normally get. So it's tough. But for graduate students, it's not as rough unless you have labs. And I've been really concerned about this in terms of football. What about those grad students who are working on cancer?
I'm coming to that because, you know, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but there always seems to be more emphasis placed on athleticism than academics. And I guess that has to do with the fact that the athletes predominantly, a whole lot of them are African American. The university is getting paid, which is why I open up the Big Ten, let the Big Ten go. You know, and I mean, where are we on, how, as a board member or member of the Board of Trustees, how will you address that? And is that the case? Do we spend more time and investment in athletics than we do in academics?
So I think some universities do. We have wonderful athletic programs at Wayne State University. We're not the Big Ten, but you know, we do have that, and that is an emphasis, obviously, for a lot of our students.
Do you think the athletes should get paid?
Student athletes?
Yeah. They're the ones bringing in the money.
Yeah, absolutely. They should get something more, yeah.
Especially now. They're putting their whole lives at risk
Right.
for our entertainment.
So you would advocate for the
Also,
students to be
let
paid?
me just say that athletics
Shirley?
at Wayne State is not like it is at other schools.
I know.
Mean, clearly, it brings in a lot of money. It's important to have athletics, which we do have at Wayne State University. Clearly, it's not at the level as it is at other universities.
Oh, I know, because I think I might have gone to one football game the whole time I was at Wayne State University. So I was there for something else. I mean, I understand.
But we have other programs like the fencing programs. That is.
I did
superior.
participate in the fencing program.
Right. Right.
And I got an A in
nationally
fencing. And the
recognized.
guy told me I shouldn't. He told me I shouldn't be a fencer. He wanted me to take the big sword, to be a hacker. Man, I didn't want. I want to use the épée.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
It's called the épée, the sword. It's called it's called an épée. And I was good at that, but he wanted me to use a big hack. I guess he felt, since I was from Detroit in the community, I just looked like I should have the big. No, I used the épée, and I got an A in that. So I know that Wayne State is not known necessarily for its athleticism, but it is known for its academics, and it's focused on urban studies. Let me ask this, we don't have a whole lot of time left, as relates to your run for the board. You got budget concerns, you have faculty concerns, you have research concerns. Why are you better than the people that you're running against? And I say that advisedly, I don't mean better, but why are you more suitable for this position than your opponent?
So I think I'm a better candidate because, number one, I have a vested interest in Wayne State being successful because I'm an alumna. I graduated from there. I'm a Detroit resident. It's in my city. Whatever happens to Wayne State University is going to affect my city. And so I am very concerned about its future. Its accreditation was recently at risk.
Yeah. And
that was, unbelievable that board members would allow that to happen, or some, I should say. So I bring a different perspective. I sat on the Wayne State Alumni Board for 12 years, so I bring that perspective. I just feel, and I've sat on a lot of boards and commissions over the years. I have 35 years in workforce development, so our agency is preparing people for work, just like the university is. And what does it take? What do we need? I think we need to help with support services, with retention. Let's go back just real quick to the graduation rate. We're talking about 25%. And if we took 100 students, that would be 25 students out of 100 students. What happened to the other 75? That's what we need to look at. And I know that this administration is concentrating on that. That has been the priority. I know that because I go to the board meetings and I know that's what they're concentrating on. But that's where we need to focus and put some attention and funding to help.
Shirley Stancato, you are running for re-election. You're already on the board.
Well, first of all, I do want to say that Eve and I have been working hand in hand to fill the two seats. So I wanted to make sure that I say that. But the fact that I'm already a board member does give me a leg up in terms of understanding what's going on in the board. The other thing is that it's important for voters to understand who they're putting on these boards, and that individuals who are on the boards understand what their role should be, and that they get elected, but they do take an oath. I still sit on many boards. I led a board of 80 people for almost 20 years. I understand the difference between management and governance. I understand what my role is as a member of the board, and I understand that I don't run the organization. That's really important. I bring that skill. I bring the ability to get along with all kinds of folks and deal with folks and balance perspectives. I bring my financial perspective from having been a banker. But the other thing that I bring is this. We talk oftentimes about what we do, and we describe that. I got an undergraduate, graduate from Wayne State, okay, doctorate, honorary doctorate, but I am also, my parents came here from the South. They were part of the migration from African Americans from the South, from Louisiana to Michigan. My father was a construction worker. He was a laborer. He was in the union. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. I was one of 6 kids, oldest daughter, went to school here, all elementary. I went to Cass Tech, Wendell, just so you know, and Wayne State, I'm in Detroit. And I am that child. I am that first generation student of color, young woman who was in that school. And when I sit at that board table at Wayne State University, I bring all of that with me. And so from my perspective, I think that I have the ability to continue to do work in Wayne State, continue to make it the premier urban university in the country.
Let me ask you this, Shirley. In that there are these attacks on the funding for the universities and all of that, particularly as it relates to the racial inclusion and the issue of diversity, does the university have a program or something that it is doing to address that? If, in fact, it results in some defunding, is there a plan B or C or D or E? Is there something that you all have been talking about?
We're really excited that the governor basically didn't cut the funding to Wayne State this year. The whole issue of diversity, equity, inclusion, in 2014, I think, was 2014, President Wilson brought on the individual who leads that work. And just today, I was in a meeting with that work is going to go throughout the university to make sure that we are clear on what DEI is. And from a funding perspective, we're looking at funding. Got a meeting on Friday to talk about funding. It's really intricate work. But funding and students of color and people of color, making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of the mission of the organization. It really is. We have more students of color than any university in the state. But it clearly is a part of it, and the financial part of it. We continue to look at it, but it's going to be a challenge. I don't want anybody to think it's going to be easy. It is going to be a challenge, and you need people sitting at that table who understand how to deal with those challenges.
Dr. Rima, why are you better than your opponents who are running?
So I would say maybe not better, but more passionate and more prepared.
Okay.
I work in education right now in different ways. I'm faculty at Eastern Michigan University, but I also have 3 programs in Detroit Public Schools. I work with leaders, I work with aspiring leaders, and I work with students, all on leadership, on how to transform the world through their leadership. So transformative leadership, culturally responsive leadership, social justice leadership. I'm teaching them how to look at the world through a lens of equity and inclusion and fairness and justice, and change their own condition. I do that work in my sleep. It's literally what I eat, sleep, drink. I think about who is counted out, who's the underdog all the time. And I do that work, and I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. When I get to the boardroom, that work will continue. When you have other folks who are running who don't know what diversity, equity, inclusion are, literally, when you ask them about Black students and Black retention and completion rates, and they talk about underprivileged kids from the inner city who have crackhead moms. Literally, this is what they're saying out their mouth. Crackhead moms and who are in foster care, and how their heart goes out to them. These are not the people who are supposed to be at a land-grant institution leading anything. I'm not sure why they're running, but they shouldn't be running for a board position at a university. So this idea that you should be a politician, I'm not, right? I'm just an educator. I believe strongly in the power of education. And I think that education, particularly right now, is a matter of life and death.
You know that one of the people who was preceded you on the board was Joel Ferguson, who's been there for a long time, former
30 years.
chair of the Board of Trustees, and he's moved on now. What do you say to somebody like that who's been there for all those years?
So I've talked to Trustee Ferguson a lot. He's fully in support of my campaign.
That's good.
I want to make sure that I give deference to those who come before me. 30 years in any position is quite a feat. And he's been more than willing to help talk me through all the transitions, but even once I'm on the board, to make sure that I'm, taken care of. He wants to make sure that I acclimate myself, because he is a politician. I'm new to this game, right? And so his wisdom, I'll be leaning on it.
I understand.
I'll be leaning on
Well,
it.
Joel is somebody you can lean on. Like the song say, lean on me. I understand. So, if people want to help you, how do they contact you or support your campaign?
So I can be reached on my Facebook page, which is Eva 4, the number 4, WSU. And also they could call me on my cell phone. All that is on my Facebook. I could say it now if you would like, 313-268-4237.
I got your number. They may need to have your number.
I know the Reverend he knows how to reach me.
Right.
But I do want to just leave one message
Yes.
with everyone, if I may. Whoever is in the White House is going to help determine the direction of higher education.
No question.
And so we have got to vote people, Biden-Harris, who are going to help our universities.
I'm sure they would appreciate hearing that. Dr. Raymond, how can someone get in touch with you?
So you can reach my campaign goals and initiatives on drrima.com. I'm on Twitter, Dr. Rima, the number 4 MSU. I'm on Facebook, Dr. Rima 4 MSU, same number 4. And you can certainly reach out via email. All of that, though, once you go to my website, all those links are there. I just really want to make sure that we vote. This is and people always say this is a really important election. I really do believe education is about life and death, but I believe this election is about life and death.
No question. Shirley Stancato, how can they get in touch with you?
My website is Stancato, the number 4, WSU.com. All the information is there. I also want to echo the fact that it is important that everybody get out and vote. And I've told the story many times. As my dad got older, he always voted because he couldn't vote in the South. And we'd go and get his absentee ballot from the mail. And I would say, Dad, do you need me to, my mom died many years before my dad. I said, Dad, do you need me to tell you who's running? And my father would say, no, baby, I'm just going to vote straight Democratic because them other fellas don't mean us no good. So everybody, let's just do that. Make it blue. And Wayne State's green and gold. We need to do that up and down the ballot.
Thank you, ladies. I can't hug you. I can give you an elbow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure, Lord. Sure, I give you an elbow, and I'm sincere. Let me thank everybody for being with us tonight. Certainly take your souls to the polls and vote. I want to say also, for those who were with us for the Million Man March, you see I'm wearing this little pin. If, in fact, you want to get a pin that, in fact, celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March, I don't know if we can put that on the screen, Barry, just to let folk know that you can contact our church and you can get this little beautiful pin symbolic of the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. We're going to add this program again, and you can get it on Facebook. Also, you can go to the Freedom Institute webpage, freeinstitute.org, and you can link on and you can get this discussion again. I want to thank our guests, Shirley Stancato, Eva DeWalsh, and also Dr. Rima Vassar. By all means, we will be heard on November the 3rd. Take your souls to the polls and vote, and you can help us turn the point. See you the next time.